Hey there, Master Brent J. CRISCI here with you, Director of the United Martial Arts Academies, and I'm coming to you live from the Augusta location. I've been doing physical ed martial arts movement classes for all the kids stuck at home for the last 6 weeks on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it was suggested by one of my dojo parents that maybe I could do my Master CRISCI mat chats or story time like I do with my younger students at all my dojos. So that's what I'm doing. I'm here today to share a book with you called Night of the Ninjas. And there's some real valuable lessons and some really exciting adventures in it. So I'm going to read it to you. And then at the end, I'm going to share some thoughts and I'm going to encourage you guys to ask questions. So let's get started with Night of the Ninjas. This was written by Mary Pope Osborne, who I am lucky enough to know. I met her at some martial arts conferences that I attended. In the prologue, one summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. 8-year-old Jack and his 7-year-old sister Annie climbed into the treehouse. They found that it was filled with books. Jack and Annie soon discovered the treehouse was magic. It could take them to places in the books, and all they had to do was point to the picture and wish it to be there. Jack and Annie visited the time of dinosaurs, Old England, ancient Egypt, and even pirate ships. Along the way, they discovered that the treehouse belonged to Morgan Le Fay. Morgan was a magical librarian from the times of King Arthur. She traveled through time, space, gathering books. Jack and Annie are about to start a whole new adventure in Night of the Ninjas. Sounds exciting. Let's get started. Chapter 1, Back into the Woods. Let's look again, Jack, said Annie. Jack and Annie were walking home from the library. The path went right by Frog Creek Woods. Jack sighed. We looked this morning, he said. We looked the day before and the day before that. Then you don't have time to come, said Annie. I'll go look by myself. She took off into the woods. Annie, wait, Jack called. It's almost dark and we have to get home. But Annie had disappeared amongst the trees. Jack stared at the woods and he was starting to lose hope. Maybe he would never see Morgan again. Weeks had passed and there had not been one sign of Morgan Le Fay, nor had there been one sign of her magic treehouse. Jack, Annie called from the woods, it's back. Oh, she's just pretending as usual, Jack thought, but his heart started to race. Hurry, Annie called. She better not be kidding, said Jack. He took off into the woods to find Annie. Night was falling fast, crickets chirped loudly, and it was hard to see through the shadows. Annie, Jack shouted. Here, she called. Jack kept walking. Here, where? He called back. Here, here, Annie's voice said from above. Jack looked up. Oh man, he whispered. Annie waved from the window of a treehouse. It was in the tallest oak in the woods, and a long rope ladder hung down from it. The magic treehouse was back. Come on up, Annie shouted. Jack ran to the rope ladder and started climbing. He climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed. There's a picture of the treehouse in the book. It looks pretty high. As he climbed, he looked over the woods. High above the treetops, it was still light. At last, Jack pulled himself into the treehouse. Annie sat in the woods. Books were scattered everywhere. On the floor, the letter M glowed in the dim light. The M stood for Morgan Le Fay. But there was no sign of Morgan herself. I wonder where Morgan is, said Jack. Maybe she went to the library to get some more books, said Annie. We were just at the library. We would have seen her, said Jack. Besides, the library is closed now. Squeak! A little mouse ran out from behind a stack of books. It ran into the M shining into the floor. Yikes, said Annie. The mouse sat right in the middle of the M and looked up at Jack and Annie. Oh, it's so cute, said Annie. Jack had to admit the mouse was cute, had a little brown and white fur, and big dark eyes. Annie slowly reached out her hand. The mouse didn't move, and Annie patted it on its tiny head. "Hi, Peanut," she said. "Can I call you Peanut?" "Oh, brother," said Jack. "Did you know where Morgan is?" Annie asked the mouse. "Squeak!" "You're nuts," Annie said Jack. "Just because the mouse is in the treehouse doesn't mean it's magic. It's just a plain old mouse that crawled in, that's all." Jack looked around and saw a piece of paper on the floor. "What's that?" he said. "What's what?" Annie asked. Jack went over and picked up the paper. There was writing on it. "Oh, man," Jack whispered. He read the words. "What is it?" said Annie. "A note," said Jack. "It must be from Morgan. I think she's in big trouble." Chapter 2, The Open Book. Jack showed Annie the piece of paper. It said, "Help me under a spell, find for him." And the script draped off. "Oh no, Annie, we have to help her." "But what's a thin?" "Maybe she was trying to write things," said Jack. "See how the end sort of runs off the page? Maybe the spell was starting to make her disappear or something," said Annie. "Right," said Jack. "I wonder if she left any other clues," and he glanced around the treehouse. "Look," Annie pointed at the book in the corner. "That's the only book that's open," she said. Jack went over to the book and picked it up. He held it near the window. Light from the setting sun was golden on the page. Jack stared at the picture on it. In the picture were trees with white flowers. The trees were on the side of the mountain, near a wide rushing stream. Two people were also in the picture. They wore dark clothes. They had black scarves over their faces and swords strapped across their backs. "Oh, man," whispered Jack. "Who are they?" Annie said. "Ninjas, I think," said Jack. "Ninjas, really?" said Annie. "Morgan must have left the book open to this page for a reason," said Jack. "Maybe that's where she was when the spell got her," Annie said. "Or maybe that's where the four things are," said Jack. "Let's go," said Annie. "Now?" said Jack. "Yes, Morgan's in trouble. She needs us now," said Annie. "But we should read this book first," said Jack, "so we'll be prepared." "Forget it," said Annie. "Every minute counts." She grabbed the book from Jack. "Give it back," he said. "We have to find out about this place." Annie held the book out of reach. "We'll find it when we get there," she said. But Annie pointed at the picture. "We could go here," she said. The leaves of the oak tree began to shake. "Squeak! Don't be scared, Peanut," said Annie. She scooped up the mouse, then she put it in her pouch of her sweatshirt. The wind began to blow. It blew harder and harder. The treehouse started to spin faster and faster. Jack squeezed his eyes shut. Then everything was still, absolutely still, except for the sound of the rushing water. Chapter 3. Ehi. Jack opened his eyes. Annie was already looking out of the window. The mouse peeked out of her pouch. Jack looked out the window too. The air was fresh and cool. The treehouse was in a tree with a white flower. The tree was in a grove of trees on the side of a mountain near a wild stream that rushed downhill. Two ninjas were standing on rocks near the water. They were staring at the valley below. One ninja was tall and the other was short. They wore black pants and shirts, and they had black scarves wrapped around the heads and swords strapped to their backs. It was exactly like the picture in the book. Jack crouched below the window. "Be careful," he whispered. "Don't let them see you." "Why not?" Annie whispered back. "They might think we're some kind of enemy," Jack said. Annie crouched beside him. Jack pushed his glasses into place. Now he was going to look at the ninja book. He picked up the book. He turned it to the beginning and read, Very little is known about the shadow warriors called ninjas. Historians believe that the ninjas lived in Japan between the 14th and 17th centuries. Both men and women were ninjas. Sometimes they fought to protect their families. Sometimes warlords hired them to be spies. Wow, whispered Jack. We're in Japan hundreds of years ago. Jack opened his backpack. He pulled out his notebook and pencil. He liked to take notes. He wrote, ninjas were warriors in old Japan. Jack whispered, Annie, they're looking up. I think I know. They know that we're here. Jack peeked over the windowsill. His eyes met the dark eyes of the tall ninja. "Ei!" cried the ninja. He dashed towards the tree. The other ninja followed. "Oh no," said Annie. "We've got to go," said Jack. "Where's the Pennsylvania book?" He and Annie looked around wildly. But where was the book about Pennsylvania? It had a big picture of Frog Creek Woods in it. Jack and Annie couldn't get home without it. "It's not anywhere," cried Annie. "We've got to do something fast," said Jack. "Pull up the ladder." He and Annie grabbed the top of the rope ladder. They pulled the ladder up into the treehouse, but the tall ninja leaped at the trunk, and he started climbing up the tree. Getting a little scary. The short ninja followed. They climbed just like cats. Jack and Annie huddled in the corner, and the ninjas climbed into the treehouse. Neither one of them made a sound. There are the two ninjas climbing up the tree. Getting pretty exciting. Chapter 4, Captured. The ninjas pulled iron bands off their heads. The bands had spikes like claws on them. "That's how they climbed the tree," Annie whispered to Jack. The ninjas stared at Jack and Annie with dark and piercing eyes. The rest of their faces were covered by their scars. Jack felt frozen under their stares. Annie was frozen, so she stepped right up to them and said, "Hi." The ninjas didn't say hi back. They didn't move at all. They were as still as Jack. "We're trying to help our friend Morgan," said Annie. She held up Morgan's note. The tall ninja took the note from her and he looked at it. Then he gave it to the short ninja. The two ninjas stared at each other. Then they looked back at Jack and Annie. Finally, the short ninja nodded once. He put the note into the pocket of his shirt. Neither ninja spoke. Jack wished he could see their faces. He couldn't tell what they were thinking. The short ninja tossed the rope ladder back out of the tree. The tall one pointed down the ladder. Then he pointed at Jack and Annie. Uh-oh, thought Jack. We're being captured. "Us? Go with you?" said Annie. The ninja nodded. "Oh boy," said Annie. "Oh boy, is she nuts?" wondered Jack. A short ninja darted down the ladder. He went hand over hand. His feet didn't touch the rings of the ladder at all. The tall one did the same. Jack gasped. The ninjas moved very fast. They were like spiders dropping from a web. "Wow," said Annie. "Now's our chance to leave," said Jack. "Quick." He looked around the treehouse again. Where was the Pennsylvania book? "Let's go with them, Jack," said Annie. "No, this isn't a game," said Jack. "But I think they know something about Morgan," said Annie. She started down the ladder. "Come back," said Jack, but it was too late. Jack sighed. "Why does this always happen?" he asked himself. "Come on, Jack," came Annie's voice from below. Jack put his notebook and the ninja book into his pack. He pushed his glasses into place, and he started down the ladder. Jack joined Annie with the ninjas on the ground. The sun had fallen behind the hills, and the sky was streaked with gold and red. The mouse peeked out from Annie's sweatshirt pouch. "Don't be scared, Peanut," Annie whispered. "We'll take care of you." Great, thought Jack, but who is going to take care of us? The short ninja held Jack's arm in one hand and Annie's arm in the other. He led them through the twilight. The tall ninja walked behind them. Where are we going? Said Jack. The ninja stopped near the rushing water of the wide stream. The water roared as if it raced downhill. The short ninja looked at Jack and Annie. He let go of their arms, and then he pushed them towards the stream. You want us to cross it? Shouted Annie. The ninja nodded, and then he and the short ninja stepped into the wild stream and started wading across the water. Let's run back to the treehouse, said Jack. No, we have to follow them, said Annie, for Morgan's sake. Jack took a deep breath. She was right. Annie grabbed Jack's hand, and together they stepped into the water. Yikes! They both screamed and jumped out. It was the coldest water Jack had ever felt, and it was colder than ice. It was so cold it felt like fire. I can't go back in, said Annie, shivering. Me neither, said Jack. I'll have a heart attack. The ninjas looked back at Jack and Annie. Then they turned around and came back. The tall ninja grabbed Jack. Help, cried Jack. But the ninja lifted Jack high into the air and put him on his shoulders. And the short ninja put Annie on his shoulders. And the two ninjas stepped into the stream. The icy wild water swirled around them, and it went up to the ninja's waist. But the ninjas moved through the stream as calmly as two sailing ships. Chapter 5. Flames in the Mist. The water grew shallow again. Then they were on dry land. The ninjas lowered Jack and Annie to the ground. Thanks, said Annie. Thanks, said Jack. Squeak, said the mouse. The ninjas said nothing, but they looked around. Jack looked around too. A full moon was rising in the sky. Dark rocks dotted across the side of the mountains. The ninjas started moving. They went silently up the slope between the rocks. Jack and Annie followed them. Jack wasn't afraid of the ninjas now. In fact, he started to like them. Maybe they could help him find Morgan. The ninjas moved silently, but Jack and Annie made plenty of noise. They panted as they climbed the rocky hillside. Their wet sneakers made squishy sounds. Suddenly, the ninjas froze. Jack could see their eyes darting around. Voices were coming from the valley below. Jack saw torches flaming in the mist. The ninjas started moving faster. Jack and Annie hurried after them. Who's carrying the torches? Annie asked. Jack was too out of breath to speak. He also didn't have an answer. They came to the pine forest. Night birds called out. Wind rattled the branches. The ninjas moved like ghosts through the forest. They appeared and disappeared through the moonlight and shadows. Jack and Annie struggled to keep up. Finally, the ninjas came to a stop. One ninja held out his hand as if to say, wait. Then both ninjas stepped up into the shadows of the trees and were gone. I don't know, said Jack. Maybe the book can tell us where they did go. He pulled the ninja book out of his pack. He turned the pages until he came to a picture of a cave. By the light of the full moon, he read, sometimes ninjas held meetings in hidden mountain caves to plan their secret missions. Oh man, said Jack, I bet they went inside a hidden cave. He pulled out his notebook and he wrote, meetings in hidden caves. Jack turned the page. He stared at the picture of a ninja sitting on a mat. He read, ninjas took orders from a ninja master. The master was a mysterious, wise person who knew many secrets of nature. Wow, whispered Jack. Just then, the two ninjas returned. Jack quickly put his book away. The short ninja motioned for Jack and Annie to follow. In the shadows was the entrance of a dark cave. What's in there? Annie whispered. The ninja's master, Jack whispered back. Wow, this is getting pretty exciting. Have you guys ever seen ninjas before? I used to work and play with ninjas when I went over to Asia and Japan. So, Jack and Annie are in the thick of it. And I wonder if they're going to find and be able to help Morgan Le Fay. What do you guys think? Well, we're going to have to wait and see because we're out of time for today. Now, be patient. That's one of the things we learn in the martial arts. We're going to start chapter 6 next time, The Shadow Warrior. And we are about halfway through. So when we have story time again, we'll finish this book and find out what happens to Jack and Annie, the short and tall ninja, and Morgan Le Fay. So join me again. I'll be back this Friday at 2 o'clock with part 2 of Night of the Ninjas. I hope you're enjoying this. And if you want to get a little physical education, martial arts movement going in, join me Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock. And we'll be moving around and having fun. So I'm so happy that we got to spend this time together. And I hope you enjoyed the story. And I look forward to seeing you again. I'm Master Brent G. CRISCI down at the United Martial Arts Academies. And this is Master CRISCI Storytime. We'll see you next time.